Everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Today's topic is municipal broadband, and there's a lot of controversy as to whether municipalities should be able to offer broadband, if they should be able to offer broadband if there's already a service provider there offering good service, and there's some conflicts in federal and state law. We'll be talking about that in just a second. Thanks for joining me. Rick Usley here from Zcorum with Broadband Deployment News. So as I mentioned, there's this controversy that's been going on for a long time where it's basically kind of a Republican-Democrat kind of split where Republicans feel like municipals, government should be very limited in what they do, those things that they can do well, and maybe that they should be doing, and then everything else should be private sector. And that is the best thing, is to have the private sector drive, keep prices down and make sure that things are done efficiently, that kind of thing. Whereas on the Democrat side, they like to maybe give more and more power to government, have them do more things. So there's been this split on municipal broadband as to should they get in the business? Because there's good points on both sides, right? Because you've got the municipality gets in the business, then they're going to be using tax money to be able to provide that service. Governments don't always do things very efficiently, so that could mean higher taxes for people. But then also, there's not really a profit motive for them because they're providing a service, but they're collecting taxes. So it's not like even if they're going to charge for broadband, just like you would charge for water or power, something like that, then they basically have some leverage over that because they don't need to make a profit. They're just trying to maybe cover their costs. And then if you've got a private company, they can't really compete on a level field. So that's kind of the issue there, the two different sides. So what do we do? And then there's some states, and a lot of times they are run by Republican governors that have banned municipal broadband because of these issues, because of these competitive issues. And then you've got the federal government now under the Biden administration, which has tried to motivate, or at least even attempted to put a little thumb on the scale for municipalities. It doesn't look like that's gone through if we look at the bill. But there's still going to be this clash coming up. So I thought we'd look at that today. I found an interesting article that we can check out here. So you see here, Biden's municipal broadband push clashes with state restrictions. And what are they talking about here? So it's basically, kind of what I was saying. The new infrastructure law says states can't exclude municipalities from broadband funds, but many block localities from operating internet networks. Well, the Biden administration tried to strong-arm states into changing their policies. And I don't think they need to strong-arm them because the incentives of this money, I think, will take care of that, but we'll see here. So President Biden's transformative push to expand internet service by treating broadband more like a public utility is on a collision course with laws in 17 states. The states argue that these types of laws are needed to protect taxpayers and prevent government overreach. The Biden administration's view is that one way to lower broadband prices around the country and to expand service in areas where it's lacking is to get more municipalities and public utilities to begin offering high-speed internet, similar to electricity or water. So they want to look at it almost as a utility where, again, there's one, you don't have multiple water companies, right? You don't have multiple companies running water pipes into your home. You don't have multiple gas companies running gas into your home, electric, right? So that would be it. But you can have multiple broadband providers. Now it could be different, one could be fiber, one could be cable, your cable modem provider, it could be wireless. So it's not like there's one highway or path in your home, although in some cases, something like an open access network could work that way. Open access is where maybe a municipality builds the fiber network and all they do is manage the fiber network itself, kind of the base infrastructure, and then marketing companies come in and they market their services over that pipe into your home. So they all market internet services over that fiber pipe. It's similar to what they did to gas here in Georgia. For a while there, Georgia had one gas company. It was Atlanta Natural Gas. They were a utility, and they had a public service commission that regulated prices. And then at some point, some brilliant person, not too brilliant, decided that it would make sense if you could have multiple people marketing gas, and that way that could bring prices down. But it was kind of silly, actually, because there's still just one gas company. There's still one gas line coming into your home. That's how you get your gas. And that's all Atlanta gas does is they manage those pipes and the gas coming to your home, and then you've got marketers on top of that that market their services. Well, then you got another level you've just added. So now you got marketers that you put on top of that. And yeah, there's different prices. There's certainly different prices, but it's not like you've got multiple providers providing you gas. You've got one gas provider, and you've got multiple people that are marketing it to you. And they're the ones providing the billing. They're the ones providing the customer service when you call up and have an issue. And they're the ones that are sending you the bill inserts and marketing on TV. That's basically what they do, right? An open access network would be similar to that, although you can actually, over open access internet, you can offer different kinds of things. So one marketer over that open access fiber network, let's say, could offer an IPTV product, a VoIP product. Another one might offer some kind of cybersecurity thing and something else. One might have 24/7 help desk by your phone. The other one might just have a chat. So they could market it in different ways and provide a better level of service over that and different services over that pipe. When you got natural gas, it's basically gas is coming in. There's nothing else happening there. So open access is one way that that people are doing this. But right here, it's a different situation. So the states argue that these types of laws are needed to protect taxpayers and prevent government overreach. Biden administration's view is that one way to lower broadband prices around the country and to extend service in an area, again, is to make it like a utility. In laying out Biden's infrastructure proposals last March, the administration said that local governments are under less pressure to turn profits. That's not in the actual act. That was in a outline or an FAQ, a fact sheet on, and I'll go over that here in a minute. That was prior to the act being passed. So less pressure to turn profits than companies, and would offer internet access at lower prices. And if faced with new competition from local governments, the thinking goes that private providers like AT&T and Comcast would be pushed to lower their rates. The issue, though, is that if you've got one entity that doesn't have to turn a profit, how does a for-profit company make a profit? I guess they could be more efficient, and that's certainly possible in the case of a government, but you still have that issue of a government-funded service versus a private enterprise. To further that vision, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act spells out that states cannot exclude municipalities from getting some of the $48.2 billion in the law to expand broadband service. So that's really where the hammer is it specifically says you cannot exclude municipalities in the bill. Problem is that a number of states bar or put up obstacles to municipalities starting their own broadband networks. For instance, Missouri bans municipalities from offering broadband, and Montana has a law that allows a city or town to provide internet services only if no private provider is available locally. Another state, Nevada, permits only municipalities with less than 25,000 people and counties with less than 55,000 people to offer service. In spite of restrictions like this, the infrastructure law says that if a state wants to share the broadband dollars, it may not exclude local government or public utilities from getting the money to expand internet service. This sets up a clash between how the federal law is intended to work and state-level policies. Several consumer groups see this as an opportunity to sidestep state laws. So an NTIA spokesperson, NTIA is the division of the Commerce Department that is handling all this, they declined to comment, but the agency is scheduled to issue guidance on how states can use the broadband dollars in May. And that's specifically, they're talking there about the notice of funding opportunity that's going to be coming out hopefully in mid-May, where the NTIA is going to outline the whole process and the grants and everything that happens. Groups like the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors say that Congress clearly intended for broadband money in the infrastructure package to be open to localities. NTIA, the group said, should require states with barriers to municipal broadband to waive those restrictions when receiving the federal infrastructure dollars for high-speed internet. If they refuse, NTIA should set clear consequences. For example, they could withhold all or a portion of the state's allocation and hand it directly to local governments, the group added. Biden clearly wanted to open the door to municipalities offering broadband in his original infrastructure proposal, the American Jobs Plan, in March 2021. They went back and forth on that, and that was not what wound up being in the act. Local governments instead would have an advantage in getting the money over private companies, according to the White House fact sheet. So that's what they were pushing for, was this fact sheet that came out. This was before the act was laid out, as before any of the details were in there, was basically what they were trying to accomplish with the infrastructure bill. And this is the portion on broadband, and it says, build high-speed broadband infrastructure to reach 100% coverage. It also prioritizes support for broadband networks owned, operated, or affiliated with local governments, nonprofits, and cooperatives, providers with less pressure to turn profits, and with a commitment to serving entire communities. So originally the fact sheet was saying, not only are we saying that you can't exclude municipalities, but you have to prioritize them. But that did not make it into the act. Then also here under promote transparency and competition, again, this is part of the reason that they want to do this, is the competitive part. President Biden's plan will promote price transparency and competition among internet providers, including by lifting barriers that prevent municipally owned, affiliated providers and rural electric co-ops from competing on an even playing field with private providers. So it doesn't lift those barriers. It doesn't prioritize municipalities, and it does not lift any barriers specifically, but it does through the act make it most likely that those barriers are not going to be in place for very long, if they are now, I think. But the idea of municipalities building broadband networks and running internet service is often opposed by critics concerned about public spending and limiting the role of government, as I mentioned. Groups like the National Taxpayers Union warn that such projects could land municipalities deep in debt, and say that the business of building and operating broadband is best left to the private sector. In some cases, that's true. Seth Cooper, Director of Policy Studies and Senior Fellow at the Free State Foundation, a conservative technology policy think tank, said NTIA should make sure that states know that the requirement allowing municipalities to access the broadband dollars exists, but he also said that forcing them to change their laws would violate their sovereignty and would be going way overboard. And that's true. So what he's saying there is, it's in the act. It says that you can't exclude them. They need to be aware that that's in the act, but you cannot require that, or that is, you can't force them to change laws because states have sovereignty there. So you can't force what laws they make. You can say, though, and I think it mentions here, you can say, okay, well, if you want the money, then you gotta allow municipalities to be in the play or in the market for that. In 2015, the FCC, under the Obama administration, took a more direct approach. It invalidated anti-municipal broadband laws around the country, saying that communities should be able to offer broadband service if they're dissatisfied with the services private companies provided. That move was challenged by North Carolina and Tennessee, as well as the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. The Sixth Court of Appeals in Ohio decided the FCC had trampled on the sovereignty of states and in 2016 and blocked the order. In 2016. However, some see the Biden administration's move as different from the FCC's order, and it is. It may not be permissible for the federal government to tell states what to do, said James Bradford Ramsey, general counsel with the Regulatory Utility Commissioners Group. But he said any government is free to condition access to grants funding, and that's true. They can say, if you want this money, then here are the stipulations. You can either take it or leave it. Congress did not pass an amendment. They're saying basically here that because Congress didn't pass this amendment, it's very clear that that was the intention of the Biden administration, was to make sure that states could compete. So, or I should say cities could compete for this money. So Congress did not pass an amendment that Senator Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee, tried to attach to the Infrastructure Act. Her amendment would have clarified that municipalities could not be excluded from receiving the broadband funding unless a state law prohibited them from operating broadband service. So she's saying, hey, if we live in a state that prohibits it, then they can't have it. So that obviously that didn't make any sense. So you can see here that this is indeed something that is going to have to be worked out. But money talks, and I don't see any of all these states really, I think, that have something in place that says municipalities cannot provide broadband or cannot be getting these funds and then offer broadband on their own. If the act says that they can't get the grants like a state, I think the act is basically what's going to come out is the act is going to say, if you want any of this money, okay, you can get $100 million, and then we're going to give you a percentage based on the unserved and underserved areas in your state. If you want any of that money, you cannot prohibit states. You cannot decline that from states that want to apply for that. I don't think there's going to be a state out there that's going to say, okay, never mind. I think they are going to be seeing the money that's available here. They're going to be seeing the opportunity to get all the citizens in their states connected up with broadband. And they're going to say, you know what, however we need to do this, we're going to do it. And that could be by EMCs, electric membership co-ops, doing it. That could be by cities doing it. That could be by traditional ISPs like your cable companies and your telephone companies, your wireless companies doing it. Could be a combination. Could be public-private partnerships where you've got a telephone company working with an EMC or a state to help get things going. I think all the states are going to be, if they have laws in the books, I think they're either going to be ignoring them, or they're going to be saying, you know, in the case of the only exception would be federal funds from the IIJA. In other words, Mr. Municipality, you cannot roll out broadband unless those funds are coming from the IIJA. That's the only compromise I could see. So I think this is going to all come out in the wash, and we'll see what happens in May when the NOFO comes out from the NTIA, and we'll see what they happen to say about this. But I think, again, money talks, and I think the states are most likely not going to turn down these dollars if it means that they can't get any money if they want to restrict this money from states. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful. I will be back tomorrow with a Tech Tuesday on a specific topic other than this. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's going to be latest broadband news in general, not necessarily about broadband deployment will be tomorrow's topic. So I hope you'll join me then. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the little bell. You'll be notified when I'm live. If this was helpful or interesting, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.